And there is a truth so simple that most overlook it. The future has never once arrived in the way you imagined. Or your life, and every tomorrow has come dressed in unexpected clothing. And this is why some of the greatest achievers in history never wasted their strength worrying about what might happen. And they simply walked forward with faith in their steps. And think of Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before giving the world the light bulb. He did not waste his nights fearing failure, and he used them experimenting. And think of Oprah Winfrey, who endured rejection after rejection, but refused to script her future based on other people's opinions. Or Elon Musk, who risked nearly all his wealth on rockets that could have exploded, and sometimes did, yet focused on the mission instead of the fear. And none of these people were free from uncertainty. But they understood a secret. Worry does not protect you from what is coming, and it only weakens you for when it arrives. Number one, the future is shaped by today's presence, not tomorrow's worry. And if you plant an apple seed today, but spend the next month worrying whether it will bear fruit, the worrying will not make it grow faster, and in fact, the anxiety will only distract you from watering it. This is how most people live, and imagining every possible disaster and missing the small steps that actually create their future. And they lose today in the name of protecting tomorrow. But the truth is, tomorrow is the result of how you live today. Look back at your own life. And how many times did you fear something that never happened? How many times did you suffer twice, and once in imagination and once in reality, when only one was necessary? Presence is not about pretending the future doesn't exist, and it is about understanding that the only way to influence the future is through the actions you take now. And Edison didn't fear whether people would laugh at his failures. He worked on another filament. Oprah didn't know whether her show would succeed, and she gave her best in every broadcast. Musk didn't wait for certainty before launching rockets. He learned from every explosion. And worry is like paying interest on a loan you haven't taken. You're giving energy to a debt that may never exist. And that energy could be building your skills, deepening your relationships, strengthening your mind. When you catch yourself thinking, what if this goes wrong? Change the question to, what can I do right now to prepare wisely without losing peace? Preparation is strength, and worry is weakness dressed as responsibility. The mind has a strange habit, and it imagines that by worrying about the future we are somehow controlling it. This is an illusion. Worry is not control. It is just repeated mental rehearsal of fear. Presence, on the other hand, does shape the future. It turns ideas into action and action into reality. Your attention is like water. Wherever you pour it, life grows, and if you pour it into the soil of today, you harvest tomorrow. If you pour it into the sand of imagined disasters, you return empty-handed. And story 1, the distracted archer. In an old village, a young archer entered a competition. As he aimed at the target, his mind whispered, "And what if the wind shifts? What if I miss and people laugh? And what if my reputation is ruined?" His hands trembled and the arrow missed by a wide margin. An old master stepped forward and said, "The arrow lands where your mind is. If your mind is in tomorrow's fear, your arrow will follow it there." The next round, and the archer focused only on the feel of the bow, the breath in his lungs, the target before him, not the crowd, not the result. The arrow struck, and the center. There was once a farmer who had 2 sons. One spent his days in the field planting and tending crops, and the other sat at home every day thinking of all the possible storms, pests, and droughts that might come. When harvest season arrived, and only one had something to gather, the other had only his fears. The future does not belong to those who worry. It belongs to those who work with peace in the present. The trap of worry. Worry steals twice. First, it steals your energy to act now. Second, and it steals your peace while you wait for the future. When you are lost in imagining all that could go wrong, you stop feeding what could go right. And worry is like running on a treadmill while staring at the horizon. You feel movement, but you go nowhere. Presence, however, is like walking the path one step at a time. you actually get closer to where you want to be. The gardener mindset, life is a garden, and the gardener knows that the only thing they can control is how they tend the soil today. They cannot command the weather, and they cannot predict every pest. They can only plant well, water regularly, and trust the process. If the gardener spends all day thinking, and what if a storm comes, they will forget to weed the plants. And when the storm finally passes, the garden will be gone. And not because of the storm, but because of neglect. Your life works the same way. The question is never, will the future be safe? The question is, and will I care for today enough to create the best possible tomorrow? And the reason worry feels heavy is because you are carrying days that are not yours yet. Imagine a traveler with a backpack, and each morning they are given the supplies for that day, food, water, clothing. But out of fear they start stuffing their bag with supplies for weeks ahead. Soon the weight is unbearable, and they collapse not because the road is too long, but because they carried what was not meant to be carried today. And presence is the act of setting down tomorrow's weight and walking with what belongs to you now. The 5-breath rule. When worry begins, pause and take 5 slow breaths and return your attention to the single action in front of you. This interrupts the spiral, the now list, and instead of listing fears for the week, list 3 small actions you can do today that serve your long-term vision. Question worry. When a fear arises, ask, does thinking about this right now change anything? If not, release it and redirect. Anchor in sensation, and feel your feet on the ground, the texture of what you are touching, the sound around you. And worry cannot survive when your mind is fully in your senses. And a traveling warrior once visited a small village and challenged its people to a duel. Only a humble tea master accepted. The tea master had never fought before, so he asked a local samurai for help. The samurai said, I cannot teach you swordsmanship in one day, but I can teach you presence. He instructed the tea master to serve tea to himself, as if the warrior were already dead. And the tea master poured with full attention. No worry, no distraction. The next day, standing before the armed warrior, and the tea master simply breathed and focused as if pouring tea. The warrior, sensing no fear, bowed and left without a fight. Presence, not skill, changed his future. Why? Presence builds the future. Presence keeps your actions aligned with your values, and presence removes hesitation, which delays progress. Presence allows you to adapt because your mind is not frozen in imaginary outcomes. And presence makes you trustworthy in work, in relationships, in leadership. Your future is not shaped by dreams alone, and it is shaped by the quality of your present decisions. Repeat it over time. Ask yourself, and if my future self could speak to me, and would they thank me for how I'm living today? Which of my daily habits feed my future, and which feed my fears? And am I building a foundation, or am I just building scenarios in my head? Close your eyes for a moment, and feel the breath moving in and out of your body. This breath is the only one you can take right now. You cannot breathe next week's breath today, and you cannot relieve last month's breath. This moment is all you truly own. Pour yourself fully into it, for if you do, and tomorrow will not be a stranger. It will be the natural child of your actions today. Walk with peace, plant with care, live with presence, and let the future take care of itself. The future is shaped by today's presence, not tomorrow's worry. And this truth is so simple that it often hides in plain sight, overlooked by minds that are constantly racing ahead. We spend hours, days, and even years thinking about what might happen, about possibilities that live only in the imagination. We picture outcomes, scenarios, and disasters and dreams. But in doing so, we often forget that none of these things exist yet. The only real material we have to shape the future is the present moment. Every choice we make, every action we take, every word we speak today is a seed. The harvest will come tomorrow, but the planting is done now. And worrying about whether the harvest will be good does nothing to improve it. And it simply takes the energy that could have been used for planting and wastes it on imagining storms that may never come. And it is the mind's tendency to believe that worry is a form of preparation. It whispers, "If I think about every bad thing that could happen, I will be ready." But this is not readiness, it is paralysis. True preparation happens through action. If you are concerned about your health, and worrying will not strengthen your body, but a daily habit of movement will. If you are concerned about your career, and worrying about being unemployed will not build skills, but learning something new today will. And so worry feels like doing something, but in reality, it is the mind running on a treadmill exhausting itself without moving forward. And presence, on the other hand, is like walking steadily toward the mountain. You may move slowly, but every step is progress. And consider the example of Thomas Edison. He is remembered for inventing the light bulb, but what is often overlooked is how many times he failed before success arrived, and more than 1,000 attempts produced no lasting result. Imagine if after the first 100 failures, he had spent his nights lying awake thinking, "And what if this never works? What if people laugh at me?" Such thoughts would have done nothing to move him closer to success. Instead, Edison returned each day to his laboratory, focusing on the experiment in front of him, and he did not carry the weight of the 1,000 future failures in his mind. He carried only the task at hand. That presence, and that ability to give full attention to each day's work without drowning in anxiety about the future, is what shaped his legacy. And the same truth can be seen in the life of Serena Williams. And she did not become the greatest in tennis by worrying about whether she would win the next championship, or whether her ranking would drop. And she built her career point by point, match by match, focusing on what she could do in the present. The discipline of daily training, and the commitment to improve each stroke, the mental resilience in each rally. These were her investments in the future, and he did not need to predict exactly what the next season would bring. By taking care of her actions today, and she built the strength that allowed her to meet whatever the future brought. Worry robs twice. First, and it steals the energy that should be used to act now. Second, it steals the peace that allows you to rest in between your actions. And when you worry about what is coming, you live in a place that does not exist. You play out hundreds of possibilities, and most of which will never happen. Yet your body reacts as if each one is real. Your shoulders tense, your breath shortens, and your mind becomes restless. And when the future finally arrives, you find that you are too tired to meet it with your full strength. And life is a garden, and each day is a chance to tend it. The gardener cannot control the weather, and they cannot command the sun to shine or the rain to fall. But they can plant seeds, remove weeds, and water the soil. And if the gardener spends all day thinking about storms, they will neglect their plants. And when the storm finally passes, the garden will be gone. And not because of the weather, but because of neglect. In the same way, if you spend all your time thinking about what might happen, and you will neglect the actions that would have made a difference, and the future will then feel like something that happens to you, instead of something you have helped shape. And there is an old story about a young archer in a village competition. In the first round, as he drew his bow, and he thought about how the wind might change, how people might laugh if he missed, and how his reputation might suffer. And his hands shook, and the arrow missed the target completely. An old master told him, "The arrow lands where your mind is. If your mind is lost in tomorrow's fear, the arrow will follow it there." In the next round, the archer focused only on the feel of the bow, and the rhythm of his breath and the target before him. The arrow struck the center. The lesson was clear. Results come from presence, and not from worrying about what others might think or what might go wrong. We live in a culture that celebrates planning for the future, and planning is wise. But there is a difference between planning and worrying. Planning is purposeful. It sets a direction, identifies resources, and then determines the next step. Worrying is aimless. It circles the same thoughts over and over without resolution. And one shapes the future through action. The other drains the present through overthinking. if you confuse the two, and you may think you are being responsible when in truth, you are only feeding fear. Your attention is like water. If you pour it into the roots of what matters today, those roots will grow strong and support you in the future. And if you pour it onto the dry sand of imaginary disasters, nothing will grow. And when the real challenges arrive, and you will be unprepared because you have spent your strength on shadows, the question to ask yourself is simple. Where is my attention right now? And if it is stuck in a place where no action can be taken, it is time to bring it back. And sometimes the greatest act of courage is to do the small thing that is in front of you. Even when your mind is screaming to think 10 steps ahead, a student preparing for exams may be overwhelmed by the thought of an entire syllabus. But if they choose to focus on the chapter in front of them today, they will find that the entire syllabus gets covered over time. Depression. And a person starting a business may feel crushed by thoughts of all the possible failures. But if they focus on making one product excellent and on serving one customer well, they will build a foundation strong enough to handle the future. Presence builds trust with yourself, with others, and with life itself. When you consistently act with full attention, you send yourself the message that you are capable, and that you can handle what is here now, and that when tomorrow arrives, you will meet it with the same commitment. And this builds an inner confidence that no amount of worrying can produce. The weight of tomorrow is heavy only when you try to carry it today. And imagine a traveler walking a long road. Each morning they are given the supplies they need for that day, just enough to reach the next stop, but out of fear they begin to pack supplies for the next week, the next month, the next year. Soon the backpack is so heavy they can barely move, and they collapse. Not because the road is too hard, but because they carried what was never meant to be carried yet. And presence is setting down that weight and taking only what is necessary for today's journey. When fear of the future rises, and it can be helpful to ask yourself, what can I do right now that will actually improve my tomorrow? If the answer is nothing, then your task is to let go. If the answer is something small, a conversation to have, a task to complete, a habit to begin, and then give it your full attention. Worry is thinking about doing. Presence is doing, and the future is shaped only by what you actually do. And if you look back at your life, you will see that many of the things you feared never came to pass. And of the challenges that did come, and most were not as devastating as your mind imagined. You met them, you survived them, and in many cases you grew stronger because of them. And this is proof that you are more capable than your fears suggest. It is also proof that worrying did nothing to help you. And what helped you was the action you took in the moment. And one day you will look back and realize that the most important days of your life were not the ones where you guessed the future correctly, but the ones where you gave your full self to the present. Those were the days that built the future you stepped into, and those were the seeds that grew into the harvest. And none of them required you to carry tomorrow's burden on your back. And the future is shaped by today's present, not tomorrow's worry. Every moment you live in full attention is an investment in what is to come, and every moment you spend lost in fear is a withdrawal from that investment. You get to choose, and your choice is made not once in a lifetime, but over and over in each small moment. You may not be able to control what will happen, but you can control how you show up right now. And if you keep showing up fully, the future will take care of itself. Number 2, uncertainty is the training ground of strength. It is the raw, unpolished field where resilience, adaptability, and courage are grown. And many believe that strength is forged in moments of stability, when life is calm, predictable, and free of surprises. But in truth, their strength is not built in the comfort of certainty. It is shaped in the friction of the unknown. And when you walk into a situation without knowing the outcome, and you choose to move forward anyway, you are training the mind, heart, and spirit to handle life's unpredictable nature. Every uncertain step is a kind of weight you lift, And just as muscles grow through resistance, and so does character grow through uncertainty. Most people avoid uncertainty because it feels uncomfortable, and the human mind craves control, and when it cannot see every step ahead, it reacts with anxiety. But this discomfort is not a signal to retreat. It is an invitation to grow. Just as an athlete does not gain strength by lifting weights they can already handle with ease, and you cannot grow if you stay only in situations where you know the ending. Every meaningful achievement in history began in uncertainty, and the person who starts a business has no guarantee it will succeed, and the student who applies to a top university has no certainty they will be accepted, and the artist who creates new work has no assurance it will be loved, and yet they act. Consider the journey of Elon Musk. And at a time when experts mocked the idea of privately funded space travel, he invested hundreds of millions into SpaceX, and his rockets exploded multiple times before they succeeded. Any one of those failures could have ended his efforts entirely, and there was no clear path, no guarantee of victory, and every attempt carried the risk of public embarrassment and financial ruin. But Musk understood that progress requires stepping into uncertainty and learning from it. Each explosion was not the end, and it was a training session. The data, the experience, the lessons from those failures became the foundation for future success. Without enduring those years of doubt and risk, there would be no reusable rockets, no reduction in space travel costs, and no path toward Mars. And uncertainty is like the wild ocean. A sailor can read about navigation, study maps, and memorize theory. But true seamanship is learned by being out on the water, adjusting the sails when the wind changes, and steering through storms. And calm seas may feel safe, but they teach little. Storms demand skill, force adaptation, and reveal the depth of a sailor's training. And the same is true for life. Your adaptability, patience, and problem-solving abilities are not developed when everything goes according to plan. And they are refined in the moments when plans break, when conditions shift, and when you are forced to find a way forward with incomplete information. Look at the career of Malala Yousafzai. And as a young girl advocating for education in Pakistan, she faced threats, danger, and finally an assassination attempt, and nothing in her path was certain. Not her safety, not the world's response, not the outcome of her efforts. But she did not let the lack of assurance stop her. She learned to speak under pressure, to hold her ground when criticized, and to channel fear into advocacy. Her strength today, the kind that can address the United Nations with calm and authority, and was not born from comfort. It was carved in the unknown. When you meet uncertainty, it is tempting to freeze. And the mind wants to wait until everything is clear, until every risk is gone. But life does not work that way. And if you wait for certainty before acting, you will wait forever. And the greatest breakthroughs come from those willing to take the first step without knowing exactly where it will lead. This is not recklessness, and it is courage married to adaptability. It's the willingness to begin and the humility to adjust as you learn. And think of Oprah Winfrey's career shift from local television to creating her own network. And she walked away from a stable and massively successful talk show to build something entirely new. The move was criticized, and the early years were difficult, and the uncertainty was immense. But in those years of challenge, she learned more about leadership, vision, and resilience than she could have in the comfort of her established role. And the struggle to keep the network alive forced her to sharpen her skills, make hard decisions, and evolve in ways that certainty never would have demanded. Uncertainty does not just test your ability to endure, and it transforms you when you face the unknown. You are forced to confront your fears, and you must decide whether your values and goals are worth pursuing even without the comfort of guarantees. And in making that choice, you discover something about yourself that cannot be learned in safety. You learn that you are capable of more than you thought, and that you can survive failure, and that discomfort is not the enemy, it is the path. And every uncertain situation you have ever survived has left you with more tools than you had before. The first time you moved to a new city, and you learned to navigate without familiarity. The first time you spoke to a large audience, you learned to steady your voice despite nerves. And the first time you faced a personal crisis, you learned how to endure pain and still keep moving. Each of these moments was a form of training and a preparation for the next unknown. This is why uncertainty is not just something to tolerate. It is something to seek out if you want to grow. And Serena Williams has spoken openly about how uncertain moments shaped her career. Injuries, losses, and personal setbacks were not things she could predict or prevent. But by facing them, she developed mental toughness, and she learned how to recover not just physically, but emotionally. These periods of doubt pushed her to refine her game, and to dig deeper into discipline, and to strengthen the mental edge that kept her competitive for decades. Without those uncertain seasons, and her dominance would have been built on shaky ground. The training ground of uncertainty is relentless, but it is also fair, and it gives you the exact lessons you need to grow if you are willing to see them. When a business deal falls through, it teaches negotiation and patience and resilience. When a relationship ends unexpectedly, it teaches self-reliance and emotional intelligence. When a plan collapses, and it teaches creativity and resourcefulness. These lessons are not comfortable, but they are invaluable. Comfort rarely pushes us to grow, and uncertainty pushes us to discover the edges of our capacity, and then expand them. And it is important to understand that embracing uncertainty does not mean you stop preparing. And preparation is essential, but it is not the same as control. You can prepare your skills and your mindset and your resources, but you cannot eliminate unpredictability. And the goal is not to create a life without uncertainty, but to become the kind of person who can thrive within it. And preparation and adaptability together create true strength, the ability to act decisively, learn quickly, and remain steady in the midst of chaos. And Michelle Obama's journey from a lawyer to the First Lady of the United States is another example of embracing uncertainty. And she stepped into a role with no clear manual, facing public scrutiny, political challenges, and massive expectations. And every initiative she undertook, from advocating for healthy eating to supporting military families, was subject to criticism and unpredictable reception. And yet each uncertain challenge refined her leadership and deepened her ability to connect with people across the world. And the poise and confidence she is known for today were developed through navigating that uncertainty with grace. And uncertainty is a teacher that demands your presence. When you cannot predict the outcome, you must pay attention to the present moment and to the signals around you, to the lessons unfolding in real time. This heightened awareness sharpens judgment, improves decision-making, and builds trust in your own instincts. You learn to listen more closely, to think more creatively, and to move more deliberately. It is tempting to see uncertainty as a problem to solve, something to escape as quickly as possible. But what if instead you saw it as an arena, and every time you step into it, you are stepping into a place where your character can be tested and strengthened? The more you enter willingly, and the less power fear has over you eventually, and you stop seeing uncertainty as the enemy and start seeing it as the environment in which your best self can emerge. And the truth is, the people you admire most are those who have walked through uncertainty and refused to quit. And they did not have a guarantee, but they had determination. And they did not know exactly what would happen, but they knew they could handle whatever came. This is the essence of strength, and not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward in spite of it. And each time you make that decision, you are training yourself for the next challenge. And one day you will look back and see that the moments you felt most unsure were the ones that prepared you the most. And the uncertain job interview that forced you to learn how to present yourself under pressure, and the unexpected move that taught you how to adapt quickly, and the project with no clear plan that pushed you to lead in ways you had never tried before. And all of these moments were not interruptions to your life's path. They were the shaping of it. Uncertainty is not here to destroy you, and it is here to strip away the illusion that you need perfect knowledge before acting, and it is here to show you that you are capable of more than you think. It is here to train you to harden your resolve and to expand your abilities. And when you accept that, you will stop waiting for the perfect moment to start. And you will start now knowing that every step into the unknown is a step toward becoming stronger than you were yesterday. And most people think strength is built in times of certainty, but real strength is forged in the dark when you don't know what is ahead, and yet you walk anyway. Think of a ship's captain. Calm seas do not make a skilled sailor. Storms do. The future is that ocean, and its waves are not predictable. Its winds are not constant. If you demand perfect weather before you sail, you will never leave the shore, and every uncertain situation you've ever faced was a classroom. The first time you moved to a new place, the first time you tried a new skill, and the first time you entered a job interview, the first time you spoke in front of people, you did not know the outcome. Yet you survived, and learned, and often grew stronger than you expected. The next time uncertainty makes you anxious, pause and remind yourself, and this is the gym for my character. No athlete builds muscle without resistance. No tree grows tall without wind. The very thing you fear may be the thing that trains you for the life you desire. And J.K. Rowling was a single mother living on welfare when she wrote the first Harry Potter book. She did not know if any publisher would accept it, and she had no certainty, no security, only the work in front of her. 12 publishers rejected her. The 13th said yes. If she had waited for perfect assurance, the world might never have known her name. Uncertainty is uncomfortable because it removes control, but it is also a gift. It shapes adaptability, courage, and humility. These are not traits learned in comfort. They are earned in challenge. And when you meet uncertainty, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What is this trying to build in me?" Number 3, and your path is revealed step by step, not all at once. This idea is gentle and radical at the same time. And gentle because it frees you from the need to carry the whole world's map on your shoulders, and radical because it asks you to act without having all the answers. And most people live their lives waiting for complete clarity. They want the map, the forecasts, and the guarantees, and in the waiting they miss the very opportunities that reveal the map to begin with. The truth is simple, and life unfolds in fragments, in decisions taken one day at a time, in lessons learned after each small movement. And the first step does not show you the entire road. It only shows you the next footfall. And take it faithfully enough times, and a road will form beneath your feet. And refuse it because you cannot see the summit, and you will stand still while the world continues to move around you. Imagine a mountaineer standing at dusk, with only a lantern that lights 3 steps ahead, and the instinct is to say, "I cannot climb if I cannot see the mountaintop." But the mountaineer learns that the lantern is enough to place 1 foot after another. Each careful placement reveals the next patch of ground. In the same way, your life's next step is the lantern. It does not belong to fear or to speculation. It belongs to the present. And great lives are not built from perfect plans drawn in advance. They are built from repeated acts of courage that accumulate into a direction. And this is not a philosophy of drift. It is a disciplined humility. Plan when you can, prepare when it helps, but act when action is required. And even if the map is incomplete, look at modern figures who embody this truth with quiet insistence. And J.K. Rowling did not hold the entire literary world in her hands when she typed the first sentence of the first Harry Potter manuscript. And she had a story and a willingness to write. And she sent that imperfect manuscript out into the world, knowing nothing of eventual success. And each rejection letter was not a terminal verdict, but a step, an opportunity to adjust, to persist, and to keep placing 1 foot in front of the other. Oprah Winfrey did not wake up one morning as a media mogul, and she built herself through years of small decisions, show after show, honest conversation after earnest interview, and a daily commitment to connect with people. and Oprah's past revealed itself through the labor of being present in every show and in every conversation, not by her holding a complete map of future empires. These are not stories of luck. They are stories of steady forward motion, and entrepreneurship offers vivid proof of step-by-step truth. And Jeff Bezos started Amazon in a garage selling books online because that was the immediate reachable idea. And he could not know in the beginning that Amazon would become a global platform that would reshape commerce. He could only manage the next problem. And shipping, customer trust, product selection, each small solution revealed the next possibility. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, and began with a single innovative idea and a refusal to let the lack of a larger plan stop her. She tested a prototype, knocked on doors, and refined her pitch and learned as she moved. The path unveiled itself as she applied steady labor to what she could do today. And these entrepreneurs did not succeed because they saw the end from the start, and they succeeded because they were faithful to the next required action. The musician's life supplies more proof, and Beyoncé began as part of a girl group, learned the craft of resilient performance, and then incrementally built a solo career through album by album, tour by tour, reinvention by reinvention, and each project revealed what she could do next. A step that clarified the next step, and Rihanna moved from Barbados to the world stage and then expanded into fashion and beauty at an opportune pace, and each success and misstep revealing what the next sensible move could be. The lesson is always the same, and mastery is not a single leap but a sequence of directed efforts. A career is a mosaic, not a single decree, and athletics gives us a raw and obvious version of this rule. And LeBron James did not become one of the greatest basketball players by conjuring a complete career strategy in his teenage brain. And he did it by daily training, by small adjustments in his play, by learning from each game's mistakes, and by committing to fitness and craft over years. Championships are the accumulation of habits, repetitive, mundane, often invisible. And the same happens in your work. The long-term payoff lives behind everyday discipline. Train, adjust, repeat, and the trophy you want is formed from thousands of quiet repetitions done without the guarantee of immediate reward. And there is a practical generosity to believing your path is revealed step by step, and it releases the need to be perfect and replaces it with the need to be present. When you imagine the entire future, and anxiety often masquerades as preparation, you create worst-case scenarios, you rehearse catastrophes, and you build elaborate hedges that paralyze action. When you accept that the map will be drawn as you travel, preparation becomes concrete. And what skills do you need to plant now? What relationship needs tending today? And what micro habit can you start this week that your future self will thank you for? And the questions narrow your field of view in the best way, because clarity becomes an instrument, not the tyrant of action. Real lives, and even very public ones, show that plans change when you act and learn. Elon Musk's career is a study of iterative revelation, and he began with software at Zippo, then moved to PayPal, then saw an opportunity in reusable rocketry and electric cars. He could not have known the exact layout of opportunities, and he followed what became possible through understanding systems and solving immediate problems, and each venture taught lessons that made the next one conceivable. Similarly, and Satya Nadella, as CEO of Microsoft, did not remake the company by following an immaculate foresight. He made decisions step by step about cloud-first strategies, partnerships, acquisitions. Each move informed by the response of customers, teams, and the market. Leadership is often a process of sensing and responding, not of dictating a single unchangeable future. And a step-by-step path is not an excuse for drifting. Without a compass, you will be tempted to mistake short-term activity for meaningful action. And the difference is intention. A person without a compass might move constantly and still end up nowhere. And a person with an inner clarity about values and long-term aims uses each step to test assumptions. When Oprah started building her network, and she did not abandon the core value that made her voice meaningful. Empathy and authentic conversation. and she used each project to test how to broaden influence while maintaining integrity. Your compass is not the entire map, and it is a set of values and priorities that orients each next move. Keep it clear and your steps will not be random. And there are spiritual dimensions to this truth as well, and many contemplative traditions teach that the future is not a place you must wrestle into existence, but a consequence of how you inhabit the present. And when you act from fear, the future you invite is constricted by anxiety. When you act from curiosity, discipline, and humility, and you invite a future that is broader, more generous, and more creative. This is not mystical wishfulness. It is practical psychology, and a calm mind sees opportunities that a fearful mind misses. An engaged heart has the patience to piece together complex projects, and over months and years, these small differences compound into entirely different lives. It is useful to name practical tools that help you live as if your path reveals itself step by step. First, adopt a next step list, and each morning or evening write down the single most important action you can take tomorrow. Make it tiny if you must. A phone call, and a short draft, a 10-minute focus practice. Do that thing. Second, hold a safety check rhythm. Every week reflect. And did I learn something that changes what I should do next? If yes, adjust. If not, repeat what works. And this prevents paralysis under the illusion of continuous future mapping. Third, celebrate micro wins and keep a short log of what small steps accumulated into progress. The log will reveal a path you could not have seen from the start, and tries of creative reinvention are especially illustrative. And consider Taylor Swift, who moved from country music into global pop, then into recording her early albums to reclaim ownership. And each of these moves followed her reading of the situation and taking the next step she could. She did not reveal the entire arc from the start, and she responded to art industry shifts and her own evolving voice. And Beyoncé similarly has repeatedly reinvented her public work by taking projects that expanded what she could do next. Each album, film, and/or tour narrowed the scope of the next possible creative expression. These shifts look strategic in retrospect, but in real time, and they were experiments and responses to what the artist had learned and grown into. Failures and detours are part of the stepwise path, and they do not mean the path was wrong. They mean you learned a boundary you needed to see. And Jeff Bezos tried many initiatives at Amazon that did not succeed as expected, and each failed experiment taught Amazon what customers valued and what infrastructure was necessary. And the important discipline is not to be crushed by failure, but to treat it as an evidence-gathering exercise. When a path changes course, ask, and what did I learn? What does this make possible now? And what small next step aligns with this new data? The ability to pivot gracefully is an essential trait for anyone who accepts that the path is revealed stepwise, and your relationships also reveal themselves in increments. You cannot build a deep friendship or a wise partnership in a single strategic move. You built them by showing up, sometimes imperfectly, again and again. Consider Michelle Obama's journey as a public figure and leader, and she did not plan every program in detail from the outset. She learned what courses resonated, what her voice could move, and how to interact with institutions over time. Each initiative, each speech, each listening session informed what she did next. Relationships deepen when you invest in the immediate acts of trust, not in theoretical future promises. And there is a subtle but powerful permission in this view. You are allowed to be a beginner again and again, and the modern world often pretends success requires genius or an early unalterable vision. In reality, and those who build enduring work are comfortable with being novices in the new domain, learning the craft step by step. When Rihanna built Fenty, and she was not starting with retail mastery, she started with an understanding of her brand and an experiment in inclusivity and product quality. And the real work was in learning the operations, the manufacturing, the distribution, one meeting and one prototype at a time. And allowing yourself to be a beginner removes the pressure to be fully formed before you begin. Practically, and this approach reduces the moral panic of the right time. and you will be tempted repeatedly by thoughts like I should have started earlier, or if I do not get this right now, I will never have another chance. And the truth is, every too late is only too late for the version of you that did not act. And the version of you that starts now will have a different pathway of opportunities. Timing matters less than the quality of the steps you take. And start with what you can know and control today, and trust that the next necessary options will appear as you take the first ones. And leadership too is an exercise in revealing path by path. And Satya Nadella's transformation of Microsoft did not come from a magical master plan that he executed single-handedly. And it came from setting a new cultural tone and then choosing the next strategic bets that matched that tone. And he listened to signals from employees and customers and then acted. Leaders who pretend they have the entire map risk making coercive and brittle decisions. Leaders who create conditions for learning, who give teams small experiments to run, who tolerate failure as a source of data, and who reward curiosity, create organizations that discover the future together in incremental and more reliable ways. And there is a humility embedded in this method that is both practical and liberating. And it recognizes that no one person has complete foresight, and that the most effective way to build large things is to learn from the environment as you move. And this humility protects you from grand illusions and invites a patient creativity. It is why many of the most resilient companies, movements, and careers are not built by inflexible geniuses, but by teams and individuals who are excellent at sensing, iterating, and then scaling small wins into bigger opportunities. A small spiritual practice helps integrate this ethic. Each evening, review 3 things. And one thing you did that moved you forward, one thing you learn, and one small step you will take tomorrow. And this ritual trains attention away from anxious forecasting and toward accountable action. Over months, you will see a path when you look back, an emergent pattern of choices that cohere into something meaningful. And the act of looking back is crucial because it is there you will understand how small steps compounded into surprising outcomes. And you will realize that the map was never missing. It was simply being drawn as you moved. Finally, and remember that the unknown is not only a field of trial, it is a field of possibility. When you require full certainty, and you narrow your aperture to those things that can be predicted. When you accept incremental revelation, and you expand your aperture to serendipity and learning. Many modern success stories are not the products of exclusive foresight, but of the people who noticed what the world was offering as they moved through it, and then were brave enough to take the next sensible step. And your life will do the same if you commit to the next step in front of you. Focus on the craft, tend to the relationships, build the habit, and learn from the tests, and keep the lantern lit for the immediate ground. The summit will appear in time, but it will be the summit earned by your persistent, faithful walking. Imagine standing on a mountain trail at night, with only a small lantern in your hand. The light does not show you the entire path to the summit and only the next few meters, but as you walk, more of the trail is revealed. This is how life works. And the reason you cannot see your entire future is not because it is hidden from you, and it is because you are not meant to carry the weight of all those steps at once. You are only meant to take the next one. And many people refuse to start because they cannot see the finish. But every great journey is taken in small pieces, and Nelson Mandela did not see the end of apartheid when he first entered prison. He simply stayed committed to each day's courage. And Malala Yousafzai did not see global education reform when she began speaking out. She simply refused to stay silent one more day. And when you demand a full map before you start, you turn life into a negotiation with fear. But when you trust each step, and the path unfolds naturally, ask yourself each morning, what is the single step I can take today that moves me toward the life I want? And do that step well, and tomorrow will reveal the next. There was once a monk who wanted to cross a vast desert. A traveler warned him, and you cannot see the end, you will get lost. The monk replied, I do not need to see the end. I only need to see where to place my feet now. If I keep placing them in the right direction, the end will take care of itself. There is a strange thing about the human mind, and it can create storms even on the clearest days. You might be sitting in a room where nothing is wrong, where there is food on your table, and where your body is healthy, where no danger is near, and yet your mind has already traveled far ahead, imagining disasters, obstacles, and losses that have not yet arrived. The future becomes like a shadow following you, whispering doubts, and making you feel restless even when life is still. But here is the truth. The future has never once been changed by worry. It has only been shaped by the actions you take today. Every great life you admire, whether it is an artist like Leonardo da Vinci, and a leader like Nelson Mandela, a thinker like Albert Einstein, or a modern builder like Elon Musk, was not created by fear of the future, but by devotion to the present. They lived their days fully, and in doing so, the future unfolded in their favor. And the first truth you must understand is that the future is shaped by today's presence, not tomorrow's worry. You may believe that thinking more about tomorrow will give you more control over it. But this is an illusion. And imagine a gardener who spends all his time looking at the sky, worrying whether it will rain next week, and yet never bends down to water the plants in his care today. The garden will wither not because the weather betrayed him, but because he neglected his duty in the present moment. Life is the same, and the dreams you want to harvest later depend entirely on the seeds you plant now. And seeds are only planted in the soil of today. And when Michael Jordan was in college, he did not spend his days fearing whether he would one day become the greatest basketball player in history. And he focused on each practice, each drill, each shot. He understood that if he mastered what was in front of him, and the next opportunity would reveal itself naturally. The same is true for Steve Jobs. And when he and Steve Monjack built the first Apple computer in a garage, and they were not worrying about what the tech industry would look like 20 years later. They poured themselves into the craft in front of them, and the future took care of the rest. Worry is like a thief that steals not your tomorrow but your today. And when you spend your hours imagining problems that do not exist, you rob yourself of the energy that could be spent building something real. And this is why the wise understand that the most powerful way to influence the future is to honor the present. You will find that the most peaceful and successful people have mastered the art of living where they are. And they do not let their minds run so far ahead that they forget to live. Now when you eat, eat. When you walk, walk. When you work, work. And give yourself fully to each moment, and your life will naturally align toward what is best for you. If you spend today in clarity, but the future will be clear. But if you spend today in fear, the future will feel frightening, not because it is, but because you train your mind to see it that way. The second truth is that uncertainty is the training ground of strength, and most people are uncomfortable with the unknown. They want every answer before they take a step, and they want the entire path lit before they begin walking. But life does not work this way. If it did, there would be no growth, and you grow precisely because you step into spaces where you do not yet have all the answers. Uncertainty is not an obstacle to your journey, and it is the gym where your courage is built. Without it, your spirit would remain weak. And think about Malala Yousafzai, who stood up for the right to education, even when she did not know if she would live to see the next day, and she could not see the end of her path, but she walked anyway. Or think of Elon Musk, when he risked his last personal savings to keep SpaceX alive after 3 failed launches. And the 4th attempt succeeded, and now rockets return from space and land upright, something once considered impossible. And these moments of strength were not born in times of comfort, and they were born in the middle of uncertainty, when the outcome was unknown, but the choice to act was still made. It is the same for you. And every time you face uncertainty and move forward anyway, you add weight to the muscles of your spirit. You become more resilient and more adaptable, more unshakable. Do not run from the unknown. Stand inside it, let it sharpen you. And life's most precious rewards are often hidden behind doors that only open to those who dare to knock without knowing what is on the other side. And the third truth is that your path is revealed step by step, not all at once. It is perhaps the hardest for the impatient mind to accept. We live in an age where we can see the ending of a movie before we finish the first scene, and where we can scroll to the conclusion of a story before reading the beginning. But life is not like that, and life is a book that only allows you to read one page at a time. You cannot skip ahead, and you cannot see the final chapter before you live the ones in between. And Oprah Winfrey did not begin her journey knowing she would one day become one of the most influential women in the world. And she started as a young news anchor, often facing rejection, criticism, and uncertainty. Each opportunity she took revealed the next, and then slowly her path unfolded. J.K. Rowling did not see the billion-dollar Harry Potter empire when she wrote her first book in cafes, and often with barely enough money for a meal. She only knew the next sentence she needed to write. The larger picture revealed itself as she walked. And this is how life works. It gives you one step, and when you take it, the next one appears. If you wait for the full map before moving, and you will never begin. But if you trust the process and take the step in front of you, and you will find that your life unfolds with a precision you could not have planned yourself. Trusting this process is not easy, but it is the only way to live without being paralyzed by the fear of the unknown. And so do not stand still waiting for clarity about the entire journey. Begin where you are, use what you have, and do what you can with what is in your hand. And as you do, the fog will lift just enough for you to see the next part of the road. And do not let your heart be imprisoned by what has not yet happened. The future is like the horizon. No matter how far you walk, and it will always be ahead of you. You cannot live there. You can only live here. And worrying about what might come is like trying to hold the wind in your hands. You cannot keep it, and the attempt will only exhaust you. Instead, and give your strength to what you can touch, to what is in your reach, to what is in front of you right now, and life will never fully reveal itself to you in advance. And that is a gift. Imagine if you already knew every turn your life would take, and every joy you would feel, every challenge you would face. There would be no wonder left in your journey. Uncertainty is not your enemy, and it is the silence from which the music of life begins to play. It is the blank canvas on which the colors of your story can appear. And when you embrace uncertainty instead of fearing it, you open the door for miracles to enter. Remember, and every person you admire once stood in the same place you are now, unsure of where the next step would lead. They did not have perfect maps, and they did not have guarantees, but they took the step anyway. And in taking that step, they met the people, opportunities, and moments that shaped their destiny. So walk without fear, walk without rushing, and walk without demanding that life show you the entire road before you take the first step. What is meant for you will find you, but you must keep moving toward it. And even the smallest step you take today is an act of faith that builds the bridge between you and the life you are meant to live. And may you have the courage to release the weight of tomorrow from your shoulders. May your mind be clear of the storms that never arrive, and may your heart be strong enough to face the unknown without trembling, and may your days be filled with a quiet confidence that as long as you honor each moment, the future will take care of itself. And may your path be guided by wisdom you do not yet see. May your steps be steady even when the ground feels uncertain. And may you be protected from harm, blessed with clarity, and surrounded by people who lift your spirit. And when you face the turning points of life, may you be given the peace to choose, not with fear, but with faith, and go forward with this truth in your heart. The future is not a place to be feared. It is a place to be welcome, one step, one breath, and one moment at a time. Do not let your heart be imprisoned by what has not yet happened. The The future is like the horizon. No matter how far you walk, it will always be ahead of you. You cannot live there. You can only live here. And worrying about what might come is like trying to hold the wind in your hands. You cannot keep it, and the attempt will only exhaust you. Instead, and give your strength to what you can touch, to what is in your reach, to what is in front of you right now. And life will never fully reveal itself to you in advance. And that is a gift. Imagine if you already knew every turn your life would take, and every joy you would feel, every challenge you would face. There would be no wonder left in your journey. Uncertainty is not your enemy, and it is the silence from which the music of life begins to play. It is the blank canvas on which the colors of your story can appear. And when you embrace uncertainty instead of fearing it, you open the door for miracles to enter. Remember, and every person you admire once stood in the same place you are now, unsure of where the next step would lead. They did not have perfect maps, and they did not have guarantees, but they took the step anyway. And in taking that step, they met the people, opportunities, and in moments that shaped their destiny. So walk without fear, walk without rushing, and walk without demanding that life show you the entire road before you take the first step. What is meant for you will find you, but you must keep moving toward it. And even the smallest step you take today is an act of faith that builds the bridge between you and the life you are meant to live. And may you have the courage to release the weight of tomorrow from your shoulders. May your mind be clear of the storms that never arrive, and may your heart be strong enough to face the unknown without trembling. And may your days be filled with a quiet confidence that as long as you honor each moment, the future will take care of itself. And may your path be guided by wisdom you do not yet see. May your steps be steady even when the ground feels uncertain. And may you be protected from harm, blessed with clarity, and surrounded by people who lift your spirit. And when you face the turning points of life, may you be given the peace to choose, not with fear but with faith. And go forward with this truth in your heart. The future is not a place to be feared. It is a place to be welcomed. One step, one breath, and one moment at a time. Hallelujah.